Have you ever felt like you checked every box, you did everything you thought you should, you are going so hard in maybe at work, with your family, at home, and you're completely exhausted? And regardless of how much you do and how much effort you put in, you're feeling empty. You feel like, is this it? I'm doing all the things I thought was supposed to do, and yet I don't feel that sense of fulfillment that I was really hoping to feel in all this. And inevitably, what do when you lack that fulfillment? You go harder, you do more. You feel like, I guess what I did wasn't enough. I need to push a little bit harder. And this becomes that endless cycle of feeling like you're doing more, doing more, doing more, and yet just never feeling the way you thought you would. This has come up in my life so many times. And just recently, it came up in a conversation with a friend that I had, and it also came up with a client. And I think this is something that so many of us experience, but maybe don't even share that often, that we are exhausted. We're doing so much. We feel like we're doing all the things we were supposed to do. And yet we're looking at ourselves, we're noticing that we're just feeling empty inside. In this episode, you're going to understand why this is a phenomenon that occurs, especially if you're a high achieving woman. You're also going to understand the deeper dynamics. What's going on below the surface that keeps you being pulled back into this feeling of having to do more and yet never actually feeling fulfilled. And then I'm going to give you a whole paradigm shift of how you can take that and remove yourself from that cycle so you can actually start to feel that sense of fulfillment in your life. Start to feel the feelings that you were hoping for maybe all along. If you felt like you have checked every box and yet you still feel this sense of emptiness, this lack of purpose, this lack of fulfillment, this is a phenomenon known as the hedonic treadmill. And this is a phenomenon that most high achieving women get stuck in. And you have probably noticed in your life that you have worked so hard for something. Maybe it's the degree, maybe it's the job, maybe it's showing up for your family, and you finally meet that goal and you have this quick burst of excitement, like, oh, yay. And then it fades away just as quickly as it came. And the next logical step that you take is to go harder. That maybe what you did was not quite enough, that you need to do more in order to get the joy that you thought was going to come in everything that you did. So again, this comes when you hit the goal, you get the praise, you follow the shoulds, you do everything right. And at the end of the day, there's just a sense of emptiness and unfulfillment. And so what do? You blame yourself that you didn't do enough. You push yourself harder. You feel like you're inadequate in so many of the areas of your life because you should have felt different, right? If you did all the things that you were supposed to, then maybe you didn't do them well enough, or maybe you didn't do them the way they were supposed to be done. And these are the things that we can tell ourselves to shame ourselves in the process, because if we don't feel the way we thought we would feel, there's clearly something wrong on the outside. And the truth of it is that is not the truth. This is just the dynamic that you have been fed. These are the belief systems that you have held on to that have continued on this process. And when you look at the world, it is fueled by productivity. It is fueled by you pushing harder, doing more, and even looking at a lot of work scenarios. They cut positions, and then what happens? You have to show up and do more for the same or less pay. There is so much benefit in society for you doing more and not ever experiencing the joy of it. And then feeling the shame of that you have to do more and continue to produce more and more and more. There's a driving force that very much affects the psychology of this. And beyond the influences of society, there are four other dynamics that may be going on here of why you feel like whatever you do, it's not enough. Number one is that you've been taught to live in your head, not your heart. You think that overthinking will allow you to feel a sense of presence, or that if you overdo, then you will finally feel like you have that freedom in your life. And you have allowed your mind to go into this problem solving of, if you didn't accomplish what you thought you would and you don't feel the way you think you would, that clearly there must be more problem solving in this to do. So instead of tuning into your heart, you go right back to the head and say, okay, there must be something I'm missing. There must be more that I have to think about here. There must be something that I have to fix in order to do that, in order to feel the way I want to feel. And so this overthinking, being stuck in your mind, creates this cycle of then thinking a thought, feeling like you're inadequate, feeling the shame of it, feeling like it's never enough, and then trying to numb out those feelings by doing more and by engrossing yourself in productivity because it feels like that's the only thing that allows you to feel some sense of safety and comfortability in everything you're experiencing. But yet, this is what drives that cycle. Number two is that you may have internalized that I earn love by overgiving. These can be some belief systems that you've developed maybe as a child that when you showed up and you got the A, that when you helped your parent or caregiver, you were recognized, you were praised for what you did, not necessarily maybe who you were. And you start to learn that over giving and showing up and productivity is the way that you are loved. So you feel like you have to continue to do that. Because if you were to take your foot off the gas, you may feel this sense of laziness that you are now inadequate. And then there goes that safety out the door because you were taught that productivity means safety, means love. And so you do not set boundaries because they may feel too risky. You don't say no because this is how you've shown your worth in the world, that you are the one who shows up. This is the identity that you have created around yourself based on belief systems. And so that dynamic keeps you stuck in this cycle of giving, doing, and producing. Number three is that your nervous system has been wired for pressure instead of peace. The nervous system's primary job is survival and keeping you safe. And so when it is wired in a way that keeps you producing, that keeps you busy, keeps you working hard, that is what it has known. And so the nervous system will continue to go back to what's most familiar, not necessarily what you want, but what's most familiar. And so if you are someone who is overworking, overgiving, there is a sense of certainty with that, in that it's predictable. When you overwork, you know the cycle. You know that you're going to push yourself, maybe rely on willpower, set yourself up, achieve all the things. You'll get to the point probably where you hit that burnout or that complete dysregulation. You'll have to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and you'll get back on the horse and do all the things you're used to. You know it because you've probably been through that cycle. I know I lived like that for a long time, and it's still a cycle I'm working on because it will rear its head, especially in moments of stress. But that cycle that you know all too well is predictable. And so therefore your nervous system deems it as safe. So your nervous system, again, that's wired for survival, will continue the same patterns because it is predictable and it is efficient. And to change that and prioritize peace is too much of a shift. It feels too inefficient, and therefore that is something that is not prioritized. So your nervous system will continue on the same patterns regardless of whether they are what you desire or not. And number four is that you confuse being exhausted with being responsible. So you have learned that putting others' needs before your own, making sure that everything is okay outside of you, and looking to the outside world for that external validation that you are doing enough is what you have learned to feel like you have that sense of safety and identity in the world. And in that becomes that self-abandonment because you have learned that safety means people are happy with you, people are praising you, people are validating you, maybe through a paycheck, maybe through the job role, maybe through the grades that you got as a child. And so that is where you equate the safety to be. But in the process, you may be relinquishing your own needs, your own desires. And so you've become conditioned to praise yourself for this self-abandonment, leaving yourself behind because the outside world is being taken care of. And that is where you can have this disconnect between what you want and that fulfillment and desire and what you feel like you need to do subconsciously. So in order to rewrite your narrative, you cannot stay on the same treadmill. You have to jump off the treadmill. You cannot stay on it because it will continue the same patterns. It is that vicious loop of producing, feeling the quick joy, the joy diminishes, and then you have to do more to get back to that place. And this will only lead to more emptiness, lead to more exhaustion and burnout. So it's reframing what you value in your life. And so stepping off that treadmill doesn't mean that you are giving up your ambition. It means that you are giving up misaligned ambition. And I think that is a big sticking point for so many high achieving women, that you think the minute you get off that treadmill that everything's going to fall apart. That if I don't keep my foot on the gas, everything is just inevitably going to disintegrate on my watch. And that is not the truth, because it doesn't mean that you stop the ambition. It means that you stop putting your energy in things that are not aligned with you. And so it's reframing that fulfillment comes from alignment, not achievement. And that is where you can start to feel that reward. You can start to retrain your brain that rewarding alignment is where you are setting that intention, not rewarding just the achievement for the sake of achievement. Another reframe is that peace comes from living from desire, not obligation. This is the trap of the shoulds, that I should go to that meeting. I should go to that party I don't really want to. I should buy that even though I don't really want to spend money there. Think of how many times you say I should. And that should is perpetuating your commitment to living out of alignment, to living in obligation. So next time you are moving through the day, think about what you want. And a way you can do that is I prefer. So you can say, I prefer this. And finish the sentence with something you genuinely prefer. And this will allow your brain to start listening to your inner voice and even asking yourself, what is it that I prefer? Do I prefer to go to that party? No, not really. Do I prefer to buy that thing that I don't really want to put money into? No, not really. This is where you can start to shift from scanning for expectations to then listening to your inner voice. Another reframe is that purpose is revealed through presence, not pressure. So it is not something that you chase, it's something that you access. So it's slowing down. It's coming back into tune with yourself and listening to what that little voice within you is saying. So much of the outside world screams at us, tells us what we need to be, what we need to do, all the things that we have to get done during the day. And we can easily get consumed by those voices because of how loud they are. And those voices only keep you hooked into that productivity loop. But when you take a moment to slow down, quiet yourself and ask yourself, what is it that I need? That's when you start to reveal your purpose. That's when you start to become more present and not fall into the pressure of what everybody else demands of you. And so I want to guide you through a practice to come back home to your body, to listen to yourself, to stop the hedonic treadmill of checking all the boxes and feeling empty. So take a moment, and if you're driving, save this for later, but take a moment to place one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly. You're going to inhale for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 6. And then you're going to ask yourself, what choice feels peaceful? What choice feels pressured? So the next time that you are butting up to a decision, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what choice would feel the most peaceful for me in this moment? And what feels pressured? And just that check-in and that pause will allow you to not make decisions that are reactionary, but rather to make decisions that are based off intention and inner alignment. This also allows your body to feel safe with checking in with yourself and not just reacting to what everybody around you demands of you. It's a simple practice, but it's profound, and allowing yourself just to have that quick moment of quiet and ask yourself what feels like the most aligned decision. That's when you can start to make these little shifts That's when you can start to show up for yourself. That's when you can stop checking all the boxes for the sake of checking all the boxes and actually go inward and feel a sense of purpose within yourself, feel a sense of fulfillment within yourself, and check in with that version of you that is so greatly desiring more in this life. Because think about maybe the past 5 years. You have done so much in the past 5 years, but do you feel any different? Think about all the things that you're holding together right now. I mean, we're right in the thick of the holiday season. You have a lot on your plate. You're doing all the things. You're probably checking a lot of boxes. But how do you feel? That's the question. Because is it worth it? At the end of the day, you could check all the boxes, live your entire life having all the boxes checked, have all the lists made, go through all the lists. But if you don't feel like the most aligned, loving, compassionate version of yourself, is it worth it? And the truth is that, yes, we have things that we have to do. We have areas that we have to be fully functional, especially if you're raising kids or you serve a really important role in someone's life. You have to show up in certain ways. That is part of it. But you don't have to abandon yourself. You don't have to relinquish all your needs. You don't have to silence yourself in order to do that. You can allow your roles to be there and also show up for yourself in the process. And that's the important thing to do. So those check-ins are powerful. Because yes, you can do the list, but you want to make sure that you don't leave yourself behind in the process of doing that. And so use this check-in the next time you feel like you're reacting with an answer or a decision, so that you can make sure each thing that you choose to invite into your life truly feels right for you. And if this has spoken to you, if you want guidance in coming back home to yourself, feeling anchored in your truth and a sense of freedom and fulfillment in your life, I invite you to join my course, Self-Respect Reset, where you will learn how to feel safe within your body, regulate your nervous system. You will learn how to set boundaries internally and externally without guilt. You will learn how to trust yourself again, and you will learn how to celebrate every single thing you do that is in alignment with yourself. The link is in the show notes, and this is your invitation, your gift to yourself to show up in 2026 in a whole new way, to allow every decision to feel like it's in alignment with yourself and finally feel a sense of fulfillment without the exhaustion of doing all the things. Thank you so much for joining me.